name is Scott Tillery. I know he just said that my parents came all the way from Rigby. That's actually a recent development. Originally, we're from Alaska, way up north, and it's kind of an interesting thing because being from Alaska, people have a massive tendency to ask really stupid questions. Like, the recent one, that's personally my favorite, is people keep asking me, so you're from Alaska, right? I'm like, yeah. So what part are you from? Wasilla? I don't know where that is. Do you know where any part of Alaska is? No. Although I did do a report on it in high school, apparently I know where Juneau is. I'm like, great accomplishment, thank you for playing. But the other massively huge one that I get a lot is like, have you ever seen a polar bear? I'm like, no. Why would I want to see a polar bear? I know they're really cool when they're behind a cage, but in person those things are huge. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want to meet one in person. The other one is like, well, you're from Alaska, do you play hockey? I'm like, no, I don't play hockey. I'm not Canadian. You see a red pot leaf tattooed on me anywhere. I don't know why they did that, it seems inappropriate. For an entire country symbol. That does explain a lot about Canada. But it's an interesting process. I thought it was really fun. People generally, the neatest part is when they see me driving up in my pickup truck or something like that, they see my license plate says Alaska on it. They're like, oh, so you're from Alaska? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Alaska. They're like, do you drive a dog sled up there? I'm like, yeah, I just keep the truck around for the air conditioning. It's just a terrible tendency that people have to just overestimate that kind of thing. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting process, all of that. Growing up in Alaska was really fun. And I was just thinking about the other day, I was sitting in one of my classes and everything, I'm like, all right, we're going to do an object lesson today. I'm like, an object lesson? I remember when I used to get object lessons. Did any of you guys ever get object lessons from your parents? You know, where your parents pick up an object and say, come here, I'm going to teach you a lesson? I had those all the time when I was a kid. Object lessons were a normal part of everyday life, in my family especially. Because in a family of 9 kids, it's really interesting because growing up in a family of 9 kids, there seems to be something that goes on every day. You know, every other day ends up being like a massive game of Clue. You know, mom and dad are going around the house trying to figure out who did it. Whether it was, you know, Casey in the kitchen with the golf club, or Luke out in the yard with the tennis racket, or me in the basement with the blowtorch, you know. It was just trying to figure out what was going on. And what was the worst part about it? The worst part about it is that we always had another 8 dozen little witnesses running around the house, even when nobody had been home. Everybody had seen something, whether they'd been there or not. It's a terrible process, you know? The worst was when you get accused for something that you didn't even do. My dad comes charging in one day, he's like, Scott, did you do this? I'm like, what? He's like, were you throwing the, let's see, what was it that happened? Were you throwing the cans from the kitchen onto the trampoline so they bounce over into the pool? No, that's a really good idea. I mean, no, I didn't do that. Jeez, who did that? Well, everybody says that they saw you do it. I'm like, who? Nobody's been home for 2 hours. I'm sitting here all by myself coloring. I wish I'd come up with the idea, to be quite honest, but like, I've been sitting here bored because that was a good idea. So what was the worst part about it is now I'm getting blamed for something I didn't do, which I wouldn't mind so much if I had actually done it, to be quite honest. This makes things a lot more interesting. But it's surprisingly enough, even with 9 kids in the house, you still get bored. So you gotta make up things. And generally speaking, the games that you make up with 9 kids around are very interesting. Like one time, you guys ever figure out how to do the catapult? Which is a classic, and Which one? Oh, that one. This one knows it especially well. The one standing up. Catapult is basically where you lean back on your back, and somebody sits on your feet, and you just launch them across the room. This, of course, was a very, very creative activity. And Conley found out exactly how creative you could be because it rearranged the position of his arm. So, and it was all right, you know, after a while once he got the cast off. But after that, we figured out it'd be really fun to go jump on the bed. So after we were done jumping on the bed, we threw Conley off of the bed and then threw the bed on top of him and started jumping on that. He'd only had the cast off 2 weeks and then he got back on. It's kind of embarrassing. Hold on. He forgives me, right? No? He will someday. Anyway. So I was running around the other day and I saw something really awesome. I was driving by one of the elementary schools here and I saw a bunch of kids out on the court and they were all playing kickball. I don't know about you, but I love the game of kickball. But kickball was like the most depressing sport you could ever play. Because they get up there, and you got the guy, he's got the ball. And the pitcher rolls the ball to you. And you can just be ready, just on it. The ball's just going straight down there, and you're ready, and you've got it completely lined up, and you just boot it. And you're running for your life to first base. And then one of the 32 kids in the outfield just reaches up. You're out. So you gotta walk all the way to the back of the line, which has 40-something on kids. You might get to kick again sometime tomorrow. So you're standing in line, and the next kid gets up, and he saw what you did, of course. He saw what you did, so he's not gonna do that. So they get up and they roll in the ball, and he's ready, and he bunts it. I don't know what kind of wuss bunts the ball. This kid bunts it, and he takes off at first base. So the catcher, of course, fields the ball, which means he goes and gets it. For those of you who are not sports savvy. He goes and gets the ball, he picks it up and he hucks it at the other kid. And it belts him in the back of the head and he hits the dirt, skids for a couple of feet and stops moving. The entire game comes to a stop. Everybody gathers around the infield is all gathered around the kid already. The outfield is gradually gathering around, so there's this massive ring of kids around this one kid who's collapsed on the ground. And there's always the one kid who's always down there like, give him air, give him air, give him air. Because apparently no air filters in, getting too close. I'm not certain where that phrase came from, to be quite honest. It's something to look at. But he's always down there, give him air, give him air. You know, he's everybody's best friend, the kid that always knows stuff. His dad's like a doctor or something. So he knows stuff. And he's like, give him air, and everybody's just looking at him, and the same thoughts going through the entire crowd. Is he dead? Right. So after a little bit, of course, the kid groans, and he rolls over, and all the dirt rolls off his back. His kids had already started burying him. And he gets up, and he just looks around the crowd, and just scared out of his life, and he starts crying and runs home. And of course, everybody goes back to their spots because there's 2 outs already. And the game moves on. I've always been curious, like, what would it be like if we took the ideas of kickball and incorporated them into baseball? Where if I feel at the ball, I can hit somebody with that ball. Just to see what that would be like. I'm just curious. I'm not certain I want to play that game, but I'd like to see somebody else play it. It's a really interesting thing. I've been noticing a lot of differences in like parenting techniques lately. It's kind of an interesting thing. You ever notice like moms, you always want to get in trouble by mom because mom will let you off, generally speaking. Like the worst thing she'll do, like for example, one day, my brother's chasing me around the yard one day, and you know, obviously I had done something absolutely horrid to him. I don't know what it was, I can't remember anymore. But either way, he's chasing me around the yard, and the next thing we know is we hear this massive scream that says, "Stop!" And of course we're frozen, because I don't know how moms do it, but it's like some sort of thing that shuts shuts your brain down. And you're like, oh no, it's her. So immediately, Mom starts walking towards us screaming something like, "You kids are gonna give me a heart attack." I'm like, "You're the one gonna have a heart attack. I'm not certain my heart's still beating." She comes up and my brother realizes he's still holding the shovel he was trying to get me with, throws it down, kicks it away, hopefully she won't see it over there. And she's just like, "You kids, don't do that again." And we're like, "We're sorry." She's like, "Don't do it again." Okay. That didn't really teach me anything, to be quite honest. It just meant don't get caught by Mom. You know, because moms are just softer, and it's nice, and they're more nurturing. Dads, however, have an entirely different perspective on teaching habits. Because Dad will just be there, and you'll be about to do something really stupid, and he'll just be like, "Don't do that. I'm warning you. Don't do it." And you take the handful of pennies and you throw them into the lawnmower. Then of course you run up to him again, "Ah," and you're crying, your eyes out and everything. And he's like, "Now that wasn't very smart, was it? Not gonna do it again, are you?" Alright, now go get the pliers and we'll see if we can't get some of those out. I don't know, it's a tricky process growing up. I wouldn't want to do it again, but yeah. That's all I got for you guys.